Good evening. Welcome to Convention of States Indiana Live. Do you think we have a big problem with our federal government? If you do, stay tuned because we at Convention of States have a solution as big as the problem. Our broadcast host is Dale Parrish. He's the Convention of States Indiana State Director. Take it away, Dale. Good evening.
I hit the wrong button once again and started Maringo Mike up again. I've got to practice on that, folks. I'm sorry for continuing to mess up with him, but yeah, that was Maringo Mike introducing our broadcast. And yes, I'm Dale Parrish. I'm the state director for Convention of States here in Indiana, and I want to welcome you to our broadcast this evening. We've got another, I think, great broadcast for you. We're going to, in our first segment tonight, I should say, we're going to be talking about our training program that we have here in Indiana for district captains. And we're very proud of this training program. And I want to bring that to you this evening and discuss it. Now, I'm going to bring in two individuals, hopefully. I just lost one of them, it appears, but we're going to be bringing in Paul Phillips and Gary Harbaugh, our two co-state directors, and the three of us then will be discussing the district captain training program. So once that's done, then time permitting, we're going to then talk about I'll bring you some information about the state, how we're doing in Convention of States here in Indiana. And then if time permits, we'll get into the basics of Convention of States. And then we'll wrap up, tell you about what's coming up on future broadcasts, and try to recognize those individuals that have tuned in tonight. So then we'll wrap things up. But right now, I want to bring in the individuals that are going to be with us this evening. And I hope, well, before I do that, I almost forget this on every broadcast, but I want to give you the warning, okay? In the event that your screen would go blank or freeze up on you, just know that we've encountered a technical problem. And yes, this has happened to us before. As you know, technology is wonderful when it works, but when it doesn't work, it can stop working without any warning. All right. So, in the event that your screen would go blank or freeze up, just know that we've encountered a technical problem, and that we will not be coming back on. So don't wait around for us. I don't want you to wait that long. It just takes too long to bring everything up. So just put us on your calendar for next Monday evening to tune in at 7 o'clock and join us again at that time. Well, I see I'm going to bring Paul into the broadcast here. Paul Phillips. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Dale.
I don't know what has happened to Gary. Do you know?
No, I can't see him.
And well, there's his screen, but he is not there. So, Gary, if you can hear us.
Dale, I just got a message saying I'm in the show.
Text or anything? No. Haven't. I don't see anything. But apparently Gary has disappeared on us.
Dale, can
I'll tell you what. Let's give Gary a little more time to join us. And
Dale, I can see and hear Gary on my screen.
You can.
Yes,
you
sir.
Can see him. You can hear him?
Yes, I can.
I cannot hear him.
Dale, I'm right here.
That's very interesting. All right. Well, I have to wonder if our audience can hear him. So I don't know. I don't know what to do here. Can he hear me? Do you know if he can hear me?
Yes, he can.
He can. Okay. Well, this is going to be this is going to be interesting. We'll see if the audience is able to see and hear him, because I certainly can't. So, I see. Maybe Gary's trying to come back in on us here. There he is. Okay, now I can see him. Okay, Gary, I'm going to bring you into the broadcast.
Thanks, Dale. Right. Here I am.
That was weird. Paul said that he could see and hear you, but I couldn't see you or hear you. So hopefully everyone can see and hear you now. I don't know what happened.
We got some comments from some viewers that they could see Gary all along.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I hope everyone can see and hear him now. Okay. Well, let's get started on the DC training program. Now, I want to start things off here with a little bit of background on our training program and how it developed. And I'm going to go back a bit to, I'd say maybe 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. This is when I first came into Convention of States. There was no formal training program at that time. And of course, I came in as a district captain, like so many of us do. Both Paul and Gary both came in as district captains, and so that's where I started as well. Now, I was fortunate in that we had a region captain at the time for the region that I was in, and he was able to mentor me a great deal and kind of help me along. But otherwise, there was not a formal program or a set procedure or steps to go through with becoming a district captain. And I always use this analogy because Convention of States has always been a sort of popular on feeding information to people like through a fire hose, like asking them to drink through a fire hose, if you can picture that. Obviously, you got all this information coming at you at one time. So it was quite an ordeal at the time to sort through everything and to make heads or tails out of it and know what to do and what to do next and what my job was really all about. So there was truly evident that a training program, some type of training program was needed. And when I took over the reins here in Indiana as state director, that was one of the things at the top of my list of projects that I wanted to see done was I wanted here in Indiana to create a training program that we could then bring in new district captains and bring them along and introduce them, reduce that fire hose effect down to drinking from a garden hose, if you can imagine that. Something that is that would be more, they would be more capable of absorbing. So the training program was definitely needed. Now, at about the same time, I will say, National started developing more of a formal training program, and of course, we wanted our program to complement the National program. So I think we've been able to do that, and I think the National program has continued to develop more and more, and I think we're going to see our program coincide more and more with the national program. So both national as well as the state here of Indiana, we both have developed much better training programs when it comes to district captains. Now, I will say one of the major things that I wanted to see in our training program here in Indiana was I wanted to include that personal touch. I wanted to include the one-on-one touch of during the training. Now, Nationals program is very much video driven, which is very good, and the content is very good. But in our program, like I said, we complement the national program. We utilize some of the material from national. But I think what we provide in our program is that personal touch, that one-on-one touch that I think is very important, especially with a new district captain, a person new to Convention of States, new to their job, and learning what they need to know to perform their job. So I think that's very important. Well, our training program involves 6 modules, and we're going to just briefly touch on each of those modules this evening. And I want to, now that we have Gary in full view, I'm going to ask Gary to lead us off here. And Gary is going to talk to us about the first 2 modules of the program. So Gary, take it away.
Thanks, Dale. The first thing I want to say, a couple of broad areas. One is that the district captain is really the most important person in our organization because they are the people that are going to build that one-on-one relationship with their state legislators. And even though, we have state level volunteers like Dale and Paul and myself, we really depend on the district captain to be the most important person to build that relationship. Second thing is all the modules are done online through free conference call. So people don't have to go anywhere to get training. We bring the training to them. And the third thing is that we can be flexible in scheduling that, so we can work around what a new volunteer has, what time they have available. The first module is kind of an overview, an introduction that covers a variety of topics. It's handled by George Ward, our grassroots coordinator for the state. Partly a matter of getting acquainted, beginning to build a relationship with that district captain and our other volunteers. Give an introduction to what we're all about, how long we've been around, what we're doing, and then talk about programs, procedures for the training program, what the modules are. Go through the Convention of States handbook, introduce them to video and the organizational chart. The text of Article 5, some things like that.
Gary, if I can, another thing about our program is that there are some aspects of the training for Indiana where we differ a little bit from national. So not very many, but there are some things here in Indiana that we do a little differently. You mentioned an organizational chart in this introduction module. Our organizational chart looks a little bit different than what National has set up for a state. So just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, that's a good point, Dale, because one of the things is we are one of 15 past states, and Convention of States has learned that past states have a little different needs than states that are still working on getting their resolution passed. So our training is oriented a little differently for that reason. National tends to orient their training to help the state team get the resolution passed. And so we have some differences for that reason. But very important to understand really why there are some differences. that pretty much covers Module 1, and we also introduced them to what's called the Convention of States University, which is offered on the Convention of States website. People can go there and get training for any and every role that they're interested in. And it's all video driven, again, flexible. People can do it when they want. It doesn't have the one-on-one component that we have in our training program, but it does give people the opportunity to learn more and just gain further knowledge about, the project and so forth. So that pretty much wraps up what Module 1 is about. And Module 2 deals with technology. Did you have anything else on Module 1, Dale?
No, no, that's fine.
Okay. Module 2 covers technology. And one of the things that our volunteers should know is that we have some of the best tools of any grassroots organization anywhere in the country. And I know other organizations that I've learned from, they say, well, if you meet new people, this is all the information you should gather about potential volunteers and so forth. And we have a system that does all of that in spades. It allows each district captain to find who the people are in his or her district who have signed the petition, who have volunteered, all those kind of things. So we have great tools to allow a district captain to begin to build a team and to know who the people are in their area. We also use another tool, an online tool called Slack, which is a communication tool. It's not specific to Convention of States. Many organizations use Slack as a communications tool. It's just a very efficient way for us to communicate within the Convention of States Indiana, as well as the national Slack team. So that's just a great tool, and people will learn how to use that during Module 2. We do the training through a free conference call, and people will kind of get an introduction that gets them into the training, but we also teach them more about how to use this tool themselves. We have a follow-up tool. When new people sign the petition, they learn about how to follow up with them and make connection. Likewise, just some additional tools, but everything is covered so that they have an introduction to all of the online tools that we have, and they are excellent tools.
Yes, I will say that technology does play a big role in our organization. And if a new district captain coming in, I always try to make sure that they are aware that technology, it does play an important role. And I think more and more the kind of people that are coming in to our organization are already pretty much in tune with everything. Because I don't recall, it's been a long time since I talked to someone that doesn't even own a computer or doesn't do email or any of the modern tools. So very, very important. Okay, good. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Dale.
All right. Well, next up is a gentleman by the name of Paul Phillips. And Paul is going to cover the next 3 modules. How about that, Paul?
Okay. So module number 3 is the legislative training. And as Gary mentioned, this is, we believe, the heart of our organization is that relationship between a district captain and their legislators. So this training covers all of the logistics of building that relationship, starting with how to navigate the Indiana General Assembly website, to find your legislators, to get some background on them, understand what legislative areas they may be working on. And then it also covers our legislative strategy. How are we trying to move forward with the Convention of States project, and really the content of what we would like the district captains to cover when they do meet with their legislators, and the logistics of that, of how to set up the meeting, how to prepare for it, the types of materials they need to take with them. And then finally, we cover the follow-up piece, documenting the meeting, making sure we update our database on the legislators, noting their position for or against, and so on. And then after that, our fourth module is covered again by George Ward, our grassroots coordinator. And this is the grassroots training, the other side of the coin of what the district captains are responsible for. And those are our volunteers and supporters within their district. And this training will cover how to build relationships with the grassroots, how to do things like meetings within the district to find additional grassroots supporters, how to do certain shows like gun shows, for an example, to do a booth there, and how to build our grassroots through some of those techniques. And then I was going to say finally, but there's actually two more modules. Module 5, our communications module, is taught by Ken Kashuba, our communications coordinator, and excuse me, this will cover topics.
And what it involves basically is a series of questions. It's a bit of a quiz, I guess you might call it. But I want to be confident that the district captain has mastered the basic things that I believe a district captain should get from our training. So I put together a series of questions and I share those questions with the trainee ahead of time, ahead of the module. And like I said, we just go through and discuss the questions and the answers to those questions, just to make me confident that they've mastered the technology part. I mean, they got to be able to join a video conference. And they've got to be able to communicate through our communication systems, and know the basics of convention of states and what we're all about. So that's basically what Module 6 involves. It's just a summary and kind of a conclusion to the whole training program. So those are the 6 modules that our training program involves right now. I want to conclude this with the statement that we're continuously trying to improve upon this program. And as a matter of fact, we just concluded a strategy meeting for next year. And one of the things that in our strategy meeting that we discussed was how to improve upon the training program for next year. So we're already in the process of implementing some of these changes. So we will be continuously improving our training program. I see Gary dropped off again here, so I'll wrap it up here, Paul, and I'll send you back out of the broadcast. Thank you very much. Thank you both for participating tonight.
You're welcome, Dale.
All righty. All right. Well, I see my time is running short here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of wrap things up. I didn't know how long that segment was going to last on our training program, and it went longer than I anticipated, and that's okay. That's okay, because again, the training program is very, very important to us here, and we are so. Excuse me, I got a message here. Anyway, okay. Now there's Gary. I see Gary. Okay. Anyway, So I'm glad we spent some more time on, spent extra time on the training program. It's fine because it's an important part of what we do here in Convention of States in Indiana. So I want to recognize some people that have tuned in tonight. There's James Cressy. James, I believe, he's kind of a standard every week participant. And James, I believe, lives in Missouri. So we're really, really happy to have you with us again here tonight, James. Thank you very much. Okay, now this next young lady is the name's Lydia Gonzalez, and I'll go along with this name Lydia. I think this is someone else that we know actually, but we'll go ahead and say welcome to Lydia Gonzalez for joining us this evening. Thank you very much for joining in, Lydia. All right, folks, we're going to wrap things up. I want to tell you now our next broadcast is going to be on November 11th, next Monday evening. And I think what we're planning to do for that broadcast is I'm going to bring Paul and Gary back with us again for that evening. And we're going to talk about repealing the 17th Amendment. And the 17th Amendment, of course, is an amendment that was passed early in the 1900s, changing the way senators were chosen to serve in the Senate. And, the original founding, senators were nominated by and selected by state legislatures. Well, and I want to say about 1912 is when the 17th Amendment was passed, and that changed that to general elections choosing the senators. Well, many people feel that has become a problem. So there is quite a wide movement underway to repeal that 17th Amendment. It was the 17th Amendment, and move us back to state legislatures selecting the senators to choose. So anyway, Paul and Gary and I are going to have a discussion on that. It's a very interesting topic, and I hope you'll be able to join us. Now, I also want to tell you that coming up November 18th, which would be the following Monday, we're going to have another segment on constitutional literacy presented by our own Debbie Stewart, who is a volunteer here in the Convention of States here in Indiana. And Debbie is a homeschool teacher, and she teaches this program in her class, her homeschool class. So she has agreed to come in and present the program to us. So we're going to be bringing her in every month to give us another chapter on the program Constitutional Literacy. So she'll be coming on November 18th. And so be sure to tune in, and if you want to learn a little bit more about the Constitution. So hope you can join us that evening. Well, I'm going to wrap things up as I normally do. I love this quote by our one of our co-founders, Mr. Mark Meckler, who's currently president of Convention of States. And Mark has always said that, there's a fundamental question facing our country today. And that question is not what should we do? The question is who will decide? And I just think that is so important. That's what we're all about here in Convention of States. And he says, the question facing us is a two-word question, very simply, who decides? And of course, we feel that we, the people, should have a bigger say-so in the decisions made by our federal government. So I just think that's a very great quote. The fundamental question is not what should we do. The question is who will decide. Well, that's it for us tonight, folks. I want to thank you for joining us, and be sure to put us on your calendar for next Monday evening at 7 p.m. Thank you and good night.